Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar. We are very happy to welcome you to this fourth webinar in the series Bringing Post-Harvest to Scale. Today, with a focus on policy dialogue. We did this webinar already this morning, but we are happy to see that persons also inscribed themselves for this afternoon. And this is exactly what it is for, so we can provide the option to follow this same webinar this afternoon. So welcome you all. We are happy to see you here. We will hear today about how political solutions can help avoid post-harvest loss from our speakers and hopefully also from you, from your experiences and from your countries. So I have the honor to welcome you to this exciting webinar in the name of Helvetas Swiss Intercooperation, the African Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services, AFAS, the Food, Agriculture and Natural Resources Policy Analysis Network Van der Pan, and Agridea, the Swiss Center for Agricultural Advisory and Extension Services. My name is Angela Deppeler. I am working at Agridea and am a co-leader of the Group Markets International Cooperation. And I have the honor, as I said, to guide you through this event. We are very much looking forward to actively discussing with you policy issues around post-harvest management this afternoon. Our common language for this webinar is English. Quand même, j'envoie un cordial bonjour aux francophones et je vous rappelle que vous pouvez aussi poser des questions en français si c'est mieux pour vous. And let me now go to the program of this afternoon. So we are already in the introduction. We will have a short input on the Bellaccio action points from Raphael Dischi. And then we will have the presentation of Professor João Mutundo about introducing post-harvest management at policy level in Mozambique. After that, we will call all of you to participate in the discussion and exchanging experiences, as I said, from you and from your countries. At the end, we will make a short wrap up and also show you where you can find more information, where you can find the recording of this webinar and the chats that were posted. All this will be available at the end of the webinar. The objective today, again, is to share experiences with you and to learn specifically about policy options and advocacy for post-harvest management. From this, we would also like to get ideas on how to disseminate and how to adopt information on post-harvest management. The who is who of this webinar, in short, we have two presenters, Professor João Mutundo, joining us from Mozambique, and Raphael Dischel from Helvetas, who will also moderate the chat. And then we have Talentus Mtunzi from Van der Pan, who will join us as a resource person. You know me by now. And then there is a very important person. His name is Cesar Robles, and he manages all the techniques behind this webinar. Now, we would also like to know where you are from. And this is the time also to test the poll instrument with you. So you should now see a poll question on your screen saying where are you joining us from, and there you can choose the country you are from, or you say other African country or another continent. If your country is not there, you can also write in the chat message where you are from. It would be very nice to have a little overview on this. So I'm looking at Cesar if he is getting some inputs. 10 votes by now from 18 participants. So 8 persons are not so sure yet where they are from, or I don't know. Anyway, maybe we close this here and see what the responses are. Anyway, it was just to see a little bit how this works for you. So we see that there is quite a number from South Africa, and the majority of people voted and said that they are from other African countries than the ones that we have listed, that we choose from the inscription lists. But it's good to know that this has maybe changed a little bit, and then we are people from other continents. This is also about 20% from the 21 participants we have now. The numbers are constantly rising. That's good. Okay, let's close this poll, and thank you for your participation. Now, back to the presentation and back to Cesar's tips on the technical sides of this webinar. Cesar, please.
Thank you, Angela. I won't take much time. I just want to say hello to everyone. I want to inform you that everyone's microphone is closed by default, but by the time we reach the section of this webinar for questions and answers, you will be able to raise your hand in the icon that's below the chat, and then we will open the microphone for you to ask a question. In the meantime, if you have any question or comment, if it's regarding content or if it's a technical question regarding how this webinar works, you can also post it in the chat, and Raphael or me will answer directly to you. If you have any trouble listening or hearing us, the best is to close this webinar, for you to close the window completely and rejoin again from the link that we send you. This should solve the problem most of the time. And I want to inform you that this webinar is being recorded for knowledge sharing purposes. At the end of this webinar, you will receive a link, and in this link, you will find the video recording and other resources of this webinar. Thank you very much, and I hand over back to you, Angela.
That's very good. So before we go to the first input, I would just like to give you a short background on the project this webinar is part of. The project is called Post-Harvest Management in Sub-Saharan Africa, and its objective is to improve food security of smallholder men and women farmers in Sub-Saharan Africa through the reduction of post-harvest losses of food crops, mainly grains and pulses, with a market system approach. We are working in the pilot countries Benin and Mozambique, but also with dissemination activities all throughout Sub-Saharan Africa. We are now in the second phase of this project that is that lasts from 2017 to 2020. The project is implemented by Helvetas and Fanerpan as a consortium with the associated partners AFAS and Agridea. And finally, the project is part of a bigger initiative on post-harvest part of a bigger initiative on post-harvest management that is sponsored by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. One bigger project takes place with the FAO and the World Food Programme and IFAD, and one with or takes place in Ethiopia, and one is the project I was just talking about. The focus of the project is on post-harvest handling and storage of grains, cereals and pulses mainly, and we are applying a value chain approach. So this is shortly the background on this project. I am now very happy to introduce a first short input. Raphael Dischl from Helvetas will inform us about critical action points that were developed by a consortium of very experienced post-harvest management experts in Bellagio last year. So Raphael, yours the floor.
So, hi everyone, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and I'm also delighted to see that so many have joined this afternoon in this second round of the webinar today. As Angela said, I will be happy to introduce a bit to the topic based on an experience that we had last year in Bellagio in Italy. I'm also coordinating the mandate, the post-harvest management mandate that
Hello, everyone. We are back. We lost the connection for a few seconds. I will hand over back to Raphael in a minute. Just give us a few.
Okay, it seems that I'm back. Sorry for the short interruption. May I ask Cesar to put my presentation on the screen? So I was saying that I'm coordinating this mandate that Angela was presenting. I'm an advisor at Helvetas Swiss Inter Corporation in Zurich, with frequent travels also to Mozambique and Benin, where I coordinate also the mandates, this post-harvest mandate. Now, I wanted to talk about this Bellagio statement. Last year, the Rockefeller Foundation invited Helvetas Swiss Inter Corporation to organize a learning workshop on post-harvest management in Italy, in Bellagio, in September 2017. Now, what are the objectives of inviting roughly 22 experts from all over the world to talk about post-harvest management? Given the slow adoption and the scaling up, also the slow scaling up of technically proven technologies such as metal silos or other hermetic storage options, among many others. So seeing that these technologies are actually disseminated and adopted quite slowly in Africa, the objective of this high-level workshop was to identify, on the one hand, the main reasons why this scaling up is maybe slow, and to look for solutions for large-scale dissemination of these options. Secondly, it was the aim to formulate concrete actions that are needed for this broad adoption, based essentially on a market system approach. And thirdly, the aim was also to coordinate among all the stakeholders present and also beyond, to coordinate actions on post-harvest management. As you see from the list on this slide to the right, there were many well-known organizations present in Bellagio who were discussing during that week. So I will now present a few outcomes of that workshop that are documented in this Bellagio statement document. The participants, on the one hand, identified 4 main shifts that are needed to come to scale with post-harvest management. On the one hand, it was found that there's so far quite a high emphasis on quantitative loss. And at the same time, we neglect qualitative aspects of loss and also food safety aspects. So there's a need for a shift in this regard to also look more closely to quality and safety. Secondly, there was so far quite a narrow focus on reduction targets at storage level, mainly storage, while neglecting or maybe underestimating the potential of managing losses also along other stages of the value chain. Thirdly, there was also a lot of focus so far on technology promotion, meaning, for example, the testing of storage technologies or the production of technologies. However, so far there was little emphasis on promoting market systems or sectors that will also ensure the supply of these technologies, so that farmers have access to them and can purchase them. And finally, thematically, post-harvest management seems to be or was very often looked at in an isolated way, only linked to agriculture. But there's many other fields and sectors to which it is related, namely health, nutrition, but also economical development. So there's a need to shift towards addressing the post-harvest management from different thematic angles and connect these different thematic fields. Further, there were 4 main constraints identified by the participants of the Bellagio workshop. 2 of them, the first 2 that are mentioned on this screen, the screen now, we have been dealing with quite exhaustively in the last webinar. So today we will look at the topic 4, which is policy dialogue and action. Because this was one of the points, the constraints that was identified a year ago, that government policies and governments so far do not sufficiently address post-harvest management. And it was found that there's a need to reach greater engagement in policy among policymakers. There's a need to create a higher awareness among these key decision makers. And what I already mentioned, there's a need to link post-harvest management more closely to other topics, such as nutrition and health. Based on these main constraints, some action points were defined to which all the participants want to commit in the future, and which all participants want also to promote among other partners in the world. First, I just cite the Bellagio statement here. We want to call on African governments to ensure that appropriate food safety standards are enforced and that they actively support post-harvest management in their agricultural interventions, so that an enabling environment is created and which is conducive for investment in post-harvest management practices, technologies, and services. Secondly, we want to call upon national governments to support and prioritize post-harvest management solutions, building on the existing work of AGRA, FANRAPAN, Helvetas, Rome-based agencies, or the Purdue University, who has developed the PICS, etc., and many other partners in the world. And finally, we should look and identify for post-harvest management champions, meaning people who have an ownership in this topic and who promote it, people who advocate for it. And these people and these champions need to be equipped with the evidence on impacts of the positive impacts of improved post-harvest management. So these are the main action points which are documented in the Bellagio statement. Now, in this webinar, as you see, we want to discuss practical ways and approaches how we can foster actions towards these aims. And with this, I will close my presentation. Just my last slide is giving a few linkages or web links where you can find the Bellagio statement, the document where you can do further reading on it, which I would recommend. And with this, I hand over to Angela. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Sorry, my microphone was not on for a moment. Please apologize. I thank you, Raphael, for these important points, telling us also that post management is on another level present and discussed, and this helps us to understand that our webinar is also in a bigger framework, and that we can draw from these resources. Now, if there is any question of understanding, please ask your questions in the chat. And in the meantime, I would suggest we go to a next poll question. Cesar, if you can put the next poll question so that we can hear from participants how far they have been involved so far in policy dialogue or processes or policy processes on post-harvest management. This is also to know our audience a little bit more and to know you yourselves among you. Please vote now. So I am waiting a few seconds more. Cesar is busy answering to chat questions, but 13, so some more people are maybe a bit undecided yet. Please vote, but I suggest we close now and see what are the answers on this question. So we have an interesting distribution. People who have really not been exposed to this theme so far, but we also have very experienced people. So this speaks for a very interesting dialogue today. I'm happy to see this. Now, I am happy to present you in a moment Professor João Mutundo. He will give us present us the case of Mozambique and what they are doing and did so far for the policy dialogue and for advocacy for post-harvest management. So, João, please join us, and I would like to give you the floor. Hello? Okay, there seems to be quite a lot of problems with the connection, so we all close the videos. I will do two. You only hear me now, and as soon as we can, I don't see João yet, but I know he's there, so we should be able to get him. Yes, to open his microphone. Hello, João. I hope you can open your microphone and start your presentation. That would be very good. But yes, he is there. So I give you the floor, João. Thank you very much. Looking forward to.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share the Mozambique and the team experience regarding
João,
the page.
sorry. Can you
Yes.
close your camera and only use your microphone so that people can hear us better?
Close what?
The video camera, and you only open the microphone so we can hear you. That would help people follow the presentation better. Thank you.
Yeah, I closed the video.
Perfect. Thank
Can
you.
I continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I was saying I thank you for the opportunity to share what is our experience here in Mozambique. And if you can help me on downloading the presentation so that I can go through it and share with the participants. Thank you, participants, for choosing this webinar. And now I'm going to share the policy advocacy and practice in Mozambique. And this is experience from the PHM SSA project. So our different partners, as Rafael said, and also Anna said, and one of those partners is FUNELPAN. So this slide shows you how FUNELPAN is structured. FUNELPAN has its secretariat, which is based in Pretoria and works with different countries. And Mozambique is one of that country. And within Mozambique, like in other countries, the country works with different networks. So we have government network, civil society network, researchers network, private sector network, and mainly the farmers, because FUNELPAN works in agriculture sector. And within the farmers network, we have in Mozambique in particular, we have Farmers Union Network, which is represented at the national level, and also we have a Farmers Union represented at the provincial level as well as at the district level. Then we have other Farmers Union like commodity associations and the small scale association and commercial farmers association. Even you can have for each category of crops, mainly for the cash crops. So what did we do in our project? Starting from 2014 there, we produced different products, evidence-based products, which reports what's going on regarding the PHM in Mozambique. First of all, we did the baseline to find out what was the status of PHM before the project. And then we did other studies to evaluate the progress compared to the baseline. And also conducted several studies related to policy framework in the country. One of the studies that we did at the beginning was the analysis of policy and strategies for the PHM. And that study showed that we have strategies in agriculture sector, we have policies here in Mozambique in agriculture sector, but those policies, yes, mention the need of improving the PHM, but the detail, the actions are not specified. So that is a really big shortcoming from the analysis that we did under the policies and strategies in Mozambique. Since PHM is related also to food standards and norms, we did another study related to the food standards and norms in Mozambique, and we found out that there's a food standards mainly for the crops that we're talking about here, which are cereals and the legumes, parcels. But those norms and the standards are not well disseminated. In the smallholder farmers, they don't know the existence of those standards and norms, and therefore they don't use those standards and norms. And the problem that we verified is those standards and norms, first of all, are not mandatory to be used. Secondly, they are costly because they have to be purchased by different users, and the farmers mainly they don't have resources for purchasing those norms and standards. So our pushing is to have those norms be disseminated at all levels, including mainly the farmers, and also make the norms and the standards in a progressive way to be used as mandatory. Also, we did another study evaluating the gender roles and relationships to see how the activities related to PHM are divided in Mozambique between men and women. And also did another study related to cost-benefit analysis of PHM technologies. Here we're looking at which technology has the highest return, taking into account the involved cost as well as the involved benefits. As you can imagine, there are several technologies which can be afforded by smallholders, but some technologies cannot be afforded by smallholders. So these studies will tell us how we can frame our policies in order to benefit both commercial farmers, medium, as well as smallholders. So from the results of those studies, we organized policy dialogues, and those policy dialogues were organized at the different levels. Here in Mozambique, we use the mutually desired process, which means that is a process that is informed from the base, from the local people, from the small farmers, and also interacting with the top, which are the decision makers. So what should be put in the policy should be something that is agreed by the base, the local people, and also is agreed by the national level decision makers. So it's a mutually desired process. So to guarantee that the process is mutually desired, we had to organize policy dialogues at the district level, involving the district leaders as well as the farmers. And then we went to another level, which is the provincial level, and finally at the national level. So sometimes we took issues from the local level, we brought it to the national level, and vice versa, depending on what we are doing. That was done also through the Week of Actions. We organized Week of Actions, which mainly take place at the district level. From the dialogue, we join different stakeholders, and the stakeholders will debate a specific topic, and from that debate will result in a resolution where we will say this is the resolution from the debate, and that resolution becomes what we call the policy advocacy message, which we now we use it to advocate at the appropriate level to see if what was the final decision can be taken into account so that we can improve PHM in our country. We have here this slide showing the one of our technicians, which now is the FANEPAN CEO, explaining the results of our studies, and people there the assimilating what we found out so that they first, our stakeholders, can be convinced, and from them we can go for the advocacy with the different levels of advocacy depending on the issue that we're talking about. Those policy dialogues will involve different people so that we can have all those that can contribute for the advocacy of what we want to advocate, and also involving those that can take decisions on what are we advocating. So you can see in this picture, have the PS of Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, who have the provincial level people here deciding that the provincial level, as well as at the district level here. We have researchers, we have academicians, we have private sector, and other interest groups here represented. Beside the national dialogues, we also have what we call bilateral meetings. So bilateral meetings, we as FANEPAN, we approach different stakeholders and we talk to them regarding the issues that we're finding at PHM. And we ask them to see if they can go with us for the policy advocacy. Also, we have a bilateral meeting with the decision makers to make sure if they can include what we are finding out from our studies in the designing of the different policies in the country. This picture that you can see here is one of FANEPAN member who is talking with the advisor of Minister of Agriculture and Food Security here in Mozambique in the production of action plan for PHM under the Malabo process. As a result of what we're doing, national dialogue, bilateral meeting, research, and so on, we have realized some results. For now, the government of Mozambique, through the operational plan for the development of agriculture sector, recognized the reduction of PHL from 24% to 12%. In the same time, in 2016, MAZA, Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, through the CEPAG, one institution that was abolished and integrated to another institution, which we call FDA, Agriculture Development Fund, approached the FANEPAN node, approached the project team to develop the strategy for PHM. This activity was not concluded because of abolishment of that institution, but we didn't leave it as such. We continue with our work, with our advocacy, with our activities, and from that persistence, we had the other opportunities. And for example, the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security invited the PHM team to give a short course on cost-benefit analysis. Also, we're invited to be a part of evaluation of Malabo biennial report. So under this evaluation, we found out that the PHM was neglected in the country, and therefore the evaluation of Malabo was really critical in that point. As a result of that, the country was asked to design an action plan to mitigate or to improve those indicators that were not well, they did not perform well in the evaluation. And then we involved the production of the action plan, PHM action plan for responding to Malabo. That process was done. The document was approved at the high level at the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, and it was presented at the African Union meeting, which took place in Rwanda, Kigali, Rwanda, this year. So that was just to respond to the Malabo, but we're still working on having a standalone policy or action plan. And besides having the standalone policy action plan, the team has been invited, the PHM team has been invited to evaluate the National Agriculture Investment Plan, as well as to design of action plan for extension of a National Agriculture Investment Plan. Those activities took place last year, and we found that the PHM was neglected. Again, we advocate in the sense of improving the inclusion of PHM in our policy documents. Also, we're engaged in the development of PESA-2 in the new NAIP, and that process is ongoing. And for sure, our push is to have the PHM well reflected in those documents. Also, the Ministry of Agriculture, because of our engagements, demanded from the project team to submit the recommendations from all of those dialogues that we had regarding improvement of PHM, so that those recommendations can be included in the action plan that is underway now. So the action plan terms of reference were developed, draft terms of reference. We're in the process of strengthening the terms of reference. And very soon, by now, what I know, a tender for asking different enterprises as well as individual people to compete so that they can develop the action plan will be launched soon. So in that process now of strengthening the terms of reference and submitting the recommendations that can be used to develop the terms of reference as well as the final action plan that we are aiming for. And the goal here is to have the action plan developed by developed and being implemented by next year, 2019. Also, the project team in FANEPA node is a member of this, which we call CCSA, which Agriculture Sector Coordination Committee, which is chaired by the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. And now we're pushing it to be chaired by the Prime Minister of the country, so that it can be more strong and involve more stakeholders, mainly the participation of the different ministers related to the agriculture sector. And now we are there, our voice is being heard there, and we are working with the other partners in that process. Way forward. Of course, we did a lot of things. We produced a lot of documents. So what we now are proposing to do is to continue disseminating our policy briefs, have dialogues, but those not just dialogue, another dialogue. It's not should be effective dialogue towards the production of action plan that we're aiming for. Also, we will continue these bilateral meetings, pushing for the development of action plan. This action plan should be something that will benefit the farmers in order to improve PHM. And also, we're involved in the week of actions, and we do all of that engaging other stakeholders. We're in the process of signing a memorandum of understanding with different stakeholders so that they can go with us as a team in this process of advocating the PHM in Mozambique. So this is what I would like to share with you. And again, thank you for giving me opportunity to share the experience of the PHM MOS team. Thank you very much. And I'll return to Anna to take over this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Joao. This is Angela again. Thank you very much for your very interesting insight into how you bring post-harvest management to the policy level in Mozambique. I think we heard about some interesting. Before going to questions and the discussion, I have now a question to all of you, to all the audience. So you see a picture with in red with a yellow right. What do you think this is? Can you imagine what it should be? I'll give you the solution right now. I found this that there is apparently in Bondi Paro, this is in Bhutan, somewhere in the very high mountains between Tibet and India. There's this country Bhutan, and they have a national post-harvest center. So I think this is very interesting, and you can see that they also have a Facebook page. And what I particularly liked about this Facebook page was this post about the happy cookies from Bhutan. So this as a short little excursion to another continent, but still in our theme of post-harvest management. So now let's go to the discussion part. And I would also like to go back to Joao's presentation and would like to know from the audience if there are direct questions to Joao. In the meantime, let me ask one question, Joao. If you are speaking about stakeholders and key stakeholders, do you have a story to share with us about a person that in the process in Mozambique was in particular important to this process? A person from whatever stakeholder group that you mentioned was very important to bring this process forward so that you could, as you said, participate to the Malabo Declaration, that you could bring post-harvest management to the discussion at national level and so on. Do you have such a person in mind, Joao? You can open your microphone as soon. Yeah, I see it is happening.
Well, we are in Mozambique for making, for going through this process. When we started in 2014-15, the PHM, people were saying PHM is reflected, we don't need to have too many policies and so on. And even with that statement, the PS, Prime Secretary of the Minister of Agriculture here in Mozambique, you say, well, PHM is one issue that is really affecting negatively the agriculture sector in Mozambique. And he gave him different examples, not just for cereals, the parcels, but also for horticulture and other products. And the farmers that were in that workshop, that dialogue, supported him a lot. Like Yes, mainly those farmers for the horticulture products. Went to another dialogue, and the people almost quite forgetting that we are pushing for a policy, something like that, and well, they came with the idea of no, post-harvest is not just the unique issues. We have a lot of issues in the production. So if we want to develop like action for each activity, we have a lot of actions. We took that as a note, but we continued. And then we went to now the new process like the Malabo one, which the Minister of Agriculture again came in and said, look, I think, yes, you guys have a point. PHM is really, really important issues. Our report in Malabo was really lagging behind for the PHM activities. So now the buy-in is there. So what I want to say from this story that I'm telling you is really the person that I can think about that is pulling for the existence of PHM action plan is the government. In this case, the PS of the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for this clarification, Joao. There are already a lot of interesting questions coming in, but I would like to call now our resource person, Talentus Ndunsi from Vanarpan, to react on the presentation of Joao. Can you tell us a little bit, Talentus, that about what you heard from Joao and how you, who work also in other countries, how you see the process in other countries? Was this Mozambique example typical, or can you also maybe complete some other aspects? Talentus? Well, if Talentus is not there, he's coming.
Thank you, Angie. I'm there. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you, Rafael and Joao, for for the good presentations. The issue of post-harvest management, I'm sure, as we all know, is a critical issue, and as Joao has already highlighted, it's well noted in the Malabo Declaration, particularly the recent biennial review report that was launched sometime beginning of this year. In fact, just to give a little more detail with regards to post-harvest management in the biennial review, I attended a workshop in Kenya on post-harvest management that was organized by Rockefeller Foundation and FAO and the African Union. And one of the people that compiled or that developed the biennial review report was participating in that workshop, and he presented on the indicators on post-harvest management. In essence, the indicators on post-harvest management carry more weight in the biennial review report. That's what he indicated. That's how important post-harvest management is. In fact, it's appearing in most of the 7 commitments of the Malabo Declaration as an indicator, and it carries more weight therein. With regards to other countries that are performing well on post-harvest management, I also hinge on the Malabo Biennial Review report. It pointed out that there are about 5 countries that are doing well, or that reported to be on track on post-harvest management, and that is Malawi, Mauritania, Rwanda, Togo, and Uganda. The rest of the countries Africa-wide are not on track. The other component that is related to the question that Angie asked is to do with other countries that have come into play with regards to development of policies and post-harvest management strategies. There is a project that has been implemented by FAO with support from Rockefeller Foundation. And the objective of the project is to support the African Union and member states to develop policies and strategies that are country specific to reduce post-harvest losses. And the countries Kenya, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Tanzania. And the approach that they took is really peculiar to what to the processes or the approach that Joao presented on. It's almost similar. They generated evidence to ascertain the status of post-harvest management at national level and had stakeholder workshops like the policy dialogues that we did and engaged with the government, particularly the ministries of agriculture and other related ministries to showcase the extent of post-harvest management and its impact on agriculture and its contribution to the gross domestic product. What was peculiar or what was a bit unique in this particular project is that they already developed guidelines for developing the PHM strategies, and the guidelines for developing the PHM strategies were at regional level, and they came together with a monitoring and evaluation framework for countries to easily adapt those systems into their own context. So in essence, that's what we have noted. And the other country that we can learn more from is Rwanda, that have just they also have a post-harvest management strategy, and it's anchored on the private sector. Actually, the vision in quote it reads as to reduce food insecurity through an efficient post-harvest private sector system delivering staple foods to the people of Rwanda. So that's a lesson that I think stakeholders can learn from. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you very much, Talentus, for this interesting input. And it's very good to know that there are quite some other countries where there are things going on and policies being developed. Maybe we will also further in our discussion come back on the question of implementation of these policies. However, now there are already a lot of interesting chat questions, and I give the word to Raphael, who has found a particularly interesting one.
Yeah, hi, this is Raphael again. I think there's one, hello, can you hear? I found one or two questions in the chat relate to this linkage of post-harvest management to nutrition and health concerns. So one is from Eric and another one is from Curtis that goes into the same direction. So the question is, as we said in the larger statement, there's a need to link the post-harvest management more to nutrition and also safety, health concerns. The question goes to Joao Motondo. So to what extent was this aspect also considered in the policy development and strategy development in Mozambique? To what extent are they linked to nutrition and health? Joao, could you elaborate on this? Yeah, I see Joao joining.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
We hear you. Good.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, we hear you, Joao.
Okay, thank you.
Continue.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So the policies that we have so far, they don't have a detail on PHM. They recognize that PHM is a key issue. So what we are pushing, as I said before, is the development of new, the PHM action plan, which is under the process now. So how are we involving the nutrition and the health issues? I said here that we did a study on food standards. That is something that informs us about the quality of the food and the norms and standards that the different types of food should have. And that takes also the nutrition part of it. So the aflatoxin that we discuss a lot on forgetting the name in English. So those are issues that we should take into consideration when we develop this new instrument that we call the action plan for the PHA. So all of that to say yes, the nutrition is part of the crops, including the health part of it, is something that should be taken into consideration when we design the action plan. So far, those aspects were not really considered. And someone this morning was saying that we consider PHM when we talk about products that we're exporting. So those products that we're not exporting, we don't really care much about the PHM. This is because of the level of development of our countries. So far, people demand the products, agriculture products, taking into account the price, because the income is really constrained. But as the income increases, as the country becomes more stable, the demand for quality will be being mandatory to apply to food standards. But and I mean, we recognize that health issues are very important, and we have to take into account when we design those instruments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joao, for these explanations, for this further clarification. Just in the role of also a practitioner in post-harvest management, I feel and hear very often that as soon as we link post-harvest management to the nutrition and health issue, voices are more heard in the politics. If you talk about very technical issues in agriculture, it's very well, it might be less less attractive as a topic and also seen as less urgent. So I think it is also potential strategically if we link this this topic to the human health. So this just as an amendment to your points, Joao. I would love to come to another comment that came from sorry, where was it? I don't find it anymore. Chat. Sorry. Ah, yes, from Reginald. Here it comes. So Reginald asks, it seems that the government in Mozambique was very receptive. Governments are slow sometimes, even when they have signed up to commitments such as the Malabo Declaration. So what did you do to win them over? I think a very interesting question. We can maybe give the word to Joao once again, very briefly, to explain what you have done, what is so special that you gained the commitment.
Yes, actually, the government is not really receptive like that at once, like they take the idea. That was not the case in Mozambique. As I said, there was a lot of discussion, a lot of debate. Even the government came to us and said, look, We don't want to have a lot of strategy for everything. The government said that, but we pushed. I think the deal that made us winning this process. That I'm not saying that we won. I will say that we won when we'll have the strategy, we'll have all the issue related to PHM that were identified, solved. Then I will say that we won. So here was the involvement of the team in these evaluations that we went through, and then the recommendation from the evaluation. That is what I feel that is things that they made the government say, yes, okay, let's go to consider the PHM, let's go to think about developing the PHM strategy, the PHM action plan. So what I think myself, our involvement in evaluation, in recommendation, and then the Malabo, when the Malabo came and then they had the low score, and mainly because of the PHM, and then there was, oh, those people that were talking about PHM is something that we have to consider. Now we're having low score here. So then they picked it up. That was the process, not really because they accepted it once. No, we had a lot of debate and discussion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Joao. This is very interesting, I think, indeed, and very practical. And it shows that we need continuous efforts. We might not be successful in the first one, but the first step. But if you repeatedly come with this issue, people and decision makers start to listen to you. I want to raise a last question from the chat for now, which comes from my colleague from Benin, Patrice. Hi, Patrice. Thank you for this question. It is about how do we make sure or follow up the implementation of the policies? Because formulating policies is one step, but it is more difficult to also make sure that they are implemented and there is finance, that there is budget for it. So again, back to Joao for a brief explanation on that. Maybe, yes. First to Joao, and then I would ask back the question to Patrice or other people around in this webinar. What can we do to make sure the implementation? Joao, please,
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this question is a key question, actually. In morning also we had this question. There's a lot of policy, we have good policy, but implementation is really lagging behind. So for us to improve this, as I said in the morning, accountability is important. And to have that accountability, we have to have this, which I call operational plan, describing very well which activities are going to be developed, who is going to develop those activities, the resources that are needed to develop those activities, and where those resources are coming from, until what time those activities should be developed. So if we have instruments like that, and we identify the others and everything, it will mitigate this problem of implementation. That's my idea, and it is not really well happening in Mozambique. So this is the push for the next documents that we're producing, to have this operational plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joao. Just a message to all of you who have also formulated a question in the chat. We will try to get back to it to them later, so please be patient. I want to hand over for a moment to Angela for some specific questions also to all of you.
Rafael, I hope you can hear me also. Thank you, Joao, for this compliment and for pointing the finger on accountability for implementation. I would like to stay with this question for a moment about the implementation. What are the key partners that you need for implementation besides the politicians? How about universities research? How about the farmer unions? How about external services? Can you elaborate a little bit on their particular role to make the policy, to assure that the policies are also implemented. It's a question to João again, yes?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for this question. And you are bringing this question at a good time because we evaluate in AIP, which is, we recommend that things are not going well in Mozambique. Agriculture sector is not growing. So one thing that we noted there is a lack of involvement of private sector. So the government is not the other really produce. The government is for the regulation, produce those frameworks, but should be someone implementing that. And it's not really the government that is going to develop technologies, is going to produce and store. It's not the government. Private sector is the key. And because of that, it is important to develop a strategy for the involvement of private sector. And Speed Plus is USAID is financing that strategy for the development of private sector. So to say that when we develop our operational plan, we have to make sure that for the development of activities, for the production of technology, research institutions should be involved there. And then we have to identify which research institution. The resource will be coming from which part for that research institution to develop those techniques that are needed. So to say that now we're planning on producing strategy for involvement of different actors in agriculture sector, not just develop a strategy and leave like that. You have to plan how different actors will contribute for the implementation of that strategy. So what is being done now, and I'm involved in that process. Thank you.
João, for this compliment. I think there is also a question about how information is disseminated. And there we have somebody who is an expert on that. And he is from AFAS. You might know Jerry Egesa. And I think he can also relate to the question that somebody asked, I don't know where from, but this question could be interesting for you. So if we can hear Jerry from AFAS, that would be very interesting. I am opening the microphone for you so that you could also talk. Are you able to? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. We need to find out to open this microphone. Yes. Okay, Jerry, you should be able to open your microphone now. You have to say, okay. Normally then it should work. If not, we might go to another question, or I would like for the moment to go on with the theme of that João just mentioned, the role of private sector. Talentus, I know that you are also experienced in this field. Do you also want to share an experience with us, how you managed to make the private sector a partner for avoiding post-harvest losses? Talentus, are you there? Yes.
And thank you for that question. I think the issue of involving the private sector has to come from the acknowledgement of the government in terms of understanding their state capacity. The governments can only do so much in terms of development at national level, but they need to acknowledge and be true to themselves that they need the private sector to also come into play in terms of implementing some of these innovations or helping the government to implement the policies. But what we also need to take note of is that the private sector are into business and profits. So the implementation of these policies eventually have to make business sense to them. If the programs or the policies that they are supposed to run with don't make business sense, then they will not get involved. This also has to do with the market that they'll be dealing with. And in this instance, we are talking about smallholder farmers who in most of the cases are the most vulnerable communities, and sometimes you cannot really see a lot of business in smallholder farmers if you compare them with commercial farmers. So there's need for governments to come up with conducive policy environments to ensure that the business that the private sector are engaging in with the smallholder farmers eventually make profit for them for such business models to be sustainable. So in essence, I think it's the acknowledgement of the state capacity and the conducive business environment that the government can provide to the private sector, and also coming up with sustainability models that ensure that there's continuous business together with the farmer. That is, in essence, public-private partnerships that are sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Talentus. So it's important that everybody plays its role and that the state provides for a good business environment, but then the private sector has to also play his role. I have an interesting question, a long one here from Benin. Or Raphael, do you you have one? Okay, I give you the word for the next question.
Okay, hi Beck. I have one question which goes a bit again to the question of food safety, which comes from Eric. I will just highlight it now on the screen. So where is it? Sorry, I lost the question. It was, yeah, here we have it. Now we have it. So it's about the question of to what extent can we, I mean, also, I think the question is related to policy work again. Regulatory frameworks, programs that promote electricity to achieve food safety goals, for example, solar, electricity networks for refrigeration, etc. So I would like to invite Eric to elaborate on this if you feel comfortable to open your microphone. Let us talk about policy with regard to policy. So we should not dive to the more technical questions of this, but I think it's an interesting topic. So could you elaborate on that, Eric? I think it's something that is worth sharing with the others of the chat of the webinar. Eric, could you open your mic? Okay, should be possible now to open your mic, Eric, if you want. Okay, unless there is a technical problem. So we just open the question to all of us, to all who want to say something about this point, because of course we have been talking about a lot about grains and pulses, but refrigeration is and the cold chain is a very important aspect of food safety and food loss reduction in other value chains. So is there anything from a policy aspect that we can share in terms of experience to trigger improved food safety? Yeah, Eric, if you want, you can open your mic.
Hello?
Okay, otherwise we can go to the next question. If this is not, that's fine. We can also go to a next one. I think Angela, you had also another one that.
Well, sorry, I have to open my microphone. And we also wanted to stimulate the discussion a little bit about the measures that other persons, other participants here, we know that there are quite a number of persons who have some experiences, who have participated in policy processes. So we would like you to share with us some specific experiences you made, which persons you had to involve in this dialogue to be successful, or which agenda you really had to jump on to bring the process forward. You can write us in the chat. I've seen that some persons are writing, but for the moment there is no new comment. Okay, there is Bitum Biko who wants to share a story with us. So I give you the microphone, or you can click now on the green sign, no, it's red maybe on your screen with the microphone icon in it, and then you can talk. Hello? Hello, Bitumbiko? Do you see the microphone icon on your screen? on the top right in that rectangle where you see probably your name also. Well, there seems to be quite some difficulties in connection. I see also Jerry is typing, but I think there is no such icon. Yes, there is an icon on the top right. It, okay, there is the microphone would be open for Bitombiku. So you will write your experience. Okay, that is very well too. So we are waiting for you to type. And Cesar is opening the microphone for Dele. So as soon as one of you sees the icon and can open it, yes, Dele, now you can open to share with us your experience. You tip on it, on that icon, Dele. You we can advance a little bit. Cesar, can you put the next poll question, please? The poll question number 3, which is here now. Thank you very much. So this question for all of you now is, on which level do policies on post-harvest management or post-harvest losses exist where you live? Now you have different answer options. You can also tick more than one answer if you know that, for example, in your country at subnational level or provincial level as well as at national level policies already exist. So we are looking forward to getting your votes. Cesar, where are we? 6 votes, so some persons have not decided yet. Can you also vote so that we have a little bit more answers? 9 persons participated. Is the question difficult? Or maybe if you don't know, you might click on none. I realize we should have put this option also. But I suggest we close the poll now and look at the results. So 77% say that at national level there are some initiatives on post-harvest management. This is an interesting result, I think. And and only 10% or 11% say there is no policy at all at the moment. So at everybody, I think what we can take from these answers is that everybody has somewhere an entry point and something where we can continue. So there is the comment as proposed by Bitumbiko, and he's saying that they are planning a regional campaign. That is very interesting, and also that that I'm trying to see, yeah. I want to mark the question so that the participants also can see it, but okay, yeah. Well, this one is also interesting. Yes, thank you. Okay, so Bitumbiko says we work on Malabo Declaration as stakeholder, I guess, and we found the fact that the government already agreed on targets on post-harvest management as a good place to easily anchor our advocacy. Okay, thank you for this comment. Continuing, but most importantly, we have been able to link our own targets, such as food security. For example, we have been able to stimulate how much more people we would be able to reach and facilitate their food and nutrition security if we embark on successful post-harvest work. Yes, this goes a little bit back on what was said in Raphael's presentation also. As soon as we can link the theme of post-harvest management to nutrition and food security, it's more easy to convey the message. Now there is another continuation. We are planning a regional campaign on post-harvest with the aim of raising the same issues with the farmers themselves. So that is also an interesting contribution. Thank you, Vitumbiko. I don't know which country you are from, but we wish you a lot of success with this regional campaign that goes directly to involving also or addressing the farmers. I was informed that these are initiatives in Malawi. Thank you very much for this compliment. Now, yes, you say. Okay, very good. Raphael, are there other chat questions that are interesting? So I give the word to you again.
Okay. There is one question that comes from Daniel Dachanga. It's about weeks of action. Because João mentioned in his presentation that one way of promoting the message of post-harvest management is to organize weeks of action. João, could you explain how this is being done in Mozambique? Weeks of action. What does it mean? in practical terms? What actions, what activities that do these include?
Thank you. We block a week where the project team develop actions to raise awareness about PHM in the country. So during that week, we organize dialogues at different levels. We go to the media to disseminate activities related to PHM. Can be PHM messages at the local radio, or about technologies that are available for the PHM at the local radios, at the national radios. And also we use that week to interact with the leadership, and so far mainly leadership from the local level, district and the provincial level, to make sure that they understand what we're talking about. We pass our message to them, and we do also like demonstrations of technologies at different levels, you know, those local markets. We go those technologies, we show what the artisans are able to do, and also like a showcase of technologies that farmers that can acquire locally or elsewhere to improve a PHM. So it's a week that we develop different action related to PHM awareness, and also to show the technologies that are there for the farmers to improve the PHM. Thank you. I think my colleague Talentas, as well as Rafael, can help me. This is what we do here in Mozambique in the week of action. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, João, for this. I think I will not elaborate much more on that. I think a lot of a very important part of the weeks of actions, which we, by the way, also do in or have done in Benin, is media coverage. I mean, to work through television, to work through local radio, to really to spread the word about post-harvest management in practical terms, and so also make it tangible, more practical for politicians, so that they have a notion of what it means really in practical terms. And these weeks of action, they really take place in the field, in the villages, in the districts. So it's not something that happens in a meeting room. So this is a good part of really going to linking the different stakeholders in the field. So now we have a last question, which I would propose to also ask in this. I think it's again maybe to João or Talentus. How are the bilateral meetings organized? So here you, Cynthia, you refer to the meetings that were mentioned by João to disseminate policy messages and to bring decision makers on board for the post-harvest management course. So I would like to invite again João for a brief explanation on this. Maybe we can also then ask Talentus in the second step how this is done in other countries.
So we identify a topic, and we see who else we can share this topic, who can help us in advocating this topic. And then we schedule a meeting with that person, and we share the topic, and we get his view on how to proceed for advocacy on that topic. And also we can have something that we want the government to decide upon. So we identify, and then we schedule a meeting with identify the government individual that we think that is someone that can decide or help on passing the word to the person that who is going to decide. And then we organize a meeting with that person. We go, we will sit with that person, we explain that what we want, and we demand from him what we want from him also to help us. And then from there, we proceed on having a decision made by them through that person that we're going to have a bilateral meeting. Sometimes we have those bilateral meetings so that we can go to another stage, like we can meet with someone to see the national director, and we can meet the national director to see the minister. So through them, they take us to the other stages so that we can have our issue passed upon and be decided about it. So that is the way that we organize our bilateral meetings here in Mozambique. Thank you.
These are very practical questions, and that's why I think they are really also interesting, very hands-on. I mean, how we practically go about these processes. And I think Vandrapan, the whole network that you have a huge experience in this, and is great source also for advice. With this, I hand over to Angela again.
Thank you, Raphael. I just want to mention a comment coming from our colleague from AFAS, from Jerry, and because there was a question before on videos, and we want to share with you that in the framework of project, videos were made on good practices for cowpea, and this is a very interesting instrument for advocacy too, of course. Well, time is flying, and we are already almost at the end of this event. However, we would like to ask you a further question, and with you, I mean all of you participants. It is an open question where we would like to collect a little bit from you, maybe from what you have heard in this webinar, but also adding your experiences. And we would like to go to look a little bit into the future. So now, after this webinar, what action in advocacy and policy work do you propose to promote the reduction of post-harvest loss in your country? Please write us your answers. Should they write in the chat, Cesar? Yes, so you should, you can write your answers in the chat. As you know, all these chat answers will also be part of the recordings of the webinar that are available to everyone afterwards. So whatever experience you describe here will be interesting to others on the African continent, maybe even further away, and will help to exchange experiences. So I see that many people are writing comments. We will hopefully see 1, 2 of those very soon. Yes, Dele is saying more awareness through social media. I think that's an interesting approach that you are choosing there. I wish you much success with that. I do think this is important. And now there should probably be another comment. Yes. well, maybe we could cut a little bit short, coming back to the comments as far as we have time afterwards. And I would like to ask Talentus again for a short wrap up. Maybe you can also already comment on this answer from Reginald Ntomba: engage government on their commitment to Malabo and engage the farmer groups, private sector and other actors. Yes, very good you go about this. Now, Talentus, do you want to come back to the most important points that you take out from this webinar and make a short, concise wrap up for everybody?
All right. Thank you, Angie. There are a few points that I noted. I think what we agree on is that policies are important to ensure that issues like post-harvest losses are in fact, their impact requires a standalone policy. But policies on their own does not automatically or do not automatically translate to reduction in post-harvest losses. There are a lot of mechanisms that have to be put in place. For instance, stakeholders that need to be involved, particularly public-private partnerships and involvement of the private sector, where of course business cases or business sense has to be relayed to the private sector so that they are attracted to come into play. The other issue is the importance of generation of evidence that is used for policy advocacy and engaging key decision makers like the permanent secretaries, the ministers within government, and other key stakeholders outside government that make decisions at high level. And there is need for continuous engagement at policy level, not just with the government, but inclusive of other stakeholders as well. Then there are issues to do with state capacity. The state has to ascertain their capacity and identify areas where private sector can come into play, and also create a conducive environment and incentives for the private sector to come into play, including other stakeholders like the non-governmental organizations that complement government in the implementation of their policies. Dissemination of information to smallholder farmers is also critical to create awareness, and also to other stakeholders, so that they are all into the picture of post-harvest management. I think those are the key issues that I pulled out from the whole discussion. Over to you. Thank you.
Very much, Talentus, for your wrap up, and I would like to ask Raphael to do the same.
Okay, thank you, Angela. I will not do the same, because I will not repeat Talentus' points, which are all very relevant, but I would rather try to complement those. I think I will also elaborate on maybe 3 or 4 points that struck me, or that are very relevant. I think one point that came out repeatedly is that we need linkages between post-harvest management as a very often purely seen as agricultural topic, and we need to link it more to other aspects, in very importantly nutrition and health. Food safety being one of the huge problems that lead to loss, but also to health issues of people. So, and these linkages being really big potentials to the opportunities to have more ears and more eyes on this topic in the politics among decision makers. My second point is what came out from some of the comments that actually we need, I think Joao mentioned that we need repeated insistence on the topic in order to make us heard. It's post-harvest management is very often very technical, or but at least perceived as a very technical issue. So we need to insist and repeatedly pay or raise attention to it to make us heard. So at maybe the first time it will not be heard, but maybe the third or fourth or fifth time. And the last point that I put is that we need to fill a gap between what is happening in the field. I mean, the post-harvest loss that happens in households of smallholder farmers or along the value chain, in the local markets, in districts, in the field, and the realities at the policy level, where we talk about regulations, complex documents, etc., all these processes. And I mean that on the one hand, people in the districts, in the villages, the farmers, entrepreneurs, consumers, they need to understand what does a regulatory framework or maybe norms in the food standard universe means in concrete terms for them. What is their importance for their food safety, for example. On the other hand, it is very important that realities in field. That they see what does post-harvest loss mean in concrete terms and how can it be addressed very practically. So to break down the topic to something practical that is understandable from both ways. And one practical example that was given is these weeks of action where policymakers are brought together with farmers, with artisans, with local decision makers, etc. So I think with this I stop. There's many more things which also from the chat a very rich harvest of input, and I want to thank for this already. And then I hand over to Angela again.
Thank you very much, Raphael, for sharing with us the important points. I don't want to omit that there were more comments on our fourth poll questions. Thank you very much for these concrete, also as Raphael said, very practical action points. There is the proposal to make stakeholder meetings and also to work with post-harvest management in teaching, I guess at farmers' schools, and then again the emphasis on linking post-harvest management to nutrition and health. Thank you all for your comments and for your action points, and I wish you very much success with the actions you are going to take, which are important for reducing post-harvest losses. So now I want to show you where you will be able to find the material. If I can change the slide. Yes, now here it is. We are already at the end of this webinar, and what you need to know now is where you can find all the materials. So here is the link at the AFAS will host this information, and you can find the webinar, the presentations, and also the chat transcriptions there. We will share this link with all the participants through email, of course. You will get it through the networks of AFAS and FANERPAN. Of course, there is still the possibility to hold further discussions and exchange of the rich knowledge that we heard about today on the AFAS virtual social networking platform. In addition, I want to raise your attention on some D groups also from AFAS and their Twitter and Facebook posts where you can exchange on post-harvest management, and also to the community of practice on food loss reduction that is hosted by the FAO. There you can share discussions in English and also in French. You will also find some more information on the Grain Post-Harvest Loss Prevention Project on internet. So this is it from us. I want at this point say thank you to all the participants to being actively involved in these discussions. It has been very interesting for all of us, I think, and I want to say a big thank you to João Mutundo from Mozambique to share his experiences with us and to present this in this webinar. This has been a very rich presentation for many of us, I think. Also, my thanks go to Talentos and Rafael for their inputs, and to the very important man in the background, to Cesar, for enabling us this webinar technically, and sorry for some technical breaks we had. This happens sometimes, but I think and I hope that after we turned off the video, you were able to follow most of it, everything. Thank you very much also for your feedbacks on chat that are coming in now, and we are of course happy to see that you liked the presentation and that you are happy having participated here. You will have the opportunity to answer some evaluation questions that are presented to you at the end of this webinar. And for now, I also say thanks and goodbye. Thank you very much for your attention, and I again wish you the best of luck with all the actions that you are going to take to avoid further food losses. Goodbye.